Yes, hello and welcome. This is Dr. John Mason, from the main facilitator and the founder of Masters of the Journey. Today we have a special guest with us. It's my friend Don Ley, and we're going to be interviewing Don, and we're going to be chatting with him about several issues. So we're going to make this recording, and we're going to have this for our library. So hold on. What I want to do is I want to welcome Don Ley with us. Of course, he has graciously provided us a much longer interview about a near-death experience that he had about 5 or so years ago. And he's recovered from that, and he's come back with a certain understanding that may be a little bit different than before he went. So I'm going to ask Don, how has that changed you? What have you brought back with you that you're now doing differently in your life, or how is it manifesting? Okay, Don?
Okay, John, that's a very interesting question. And it's the first thing that I think I'd like to say about that I've been aware of for myself. And I don't know how this compares to other people's experiences that have gone through this process, but it's over time since that happened. I remember coming back, and it was being aware, so strongly aware of the vibration, shall we say, of that space where I went. And it was like, simply, I think, as I've described before, it was like such a bright light space, if I can put it that way, of very, very intense and bright, and yet not harsh in the least. It was just a very, very high vibration. I've been working with vibrations for years and years and years. And this took me to a little higher frequency, perhaps, than I've been used to through all the work that I've practiced over the years. And what I've been aware of since coming back, and it really relates to the whole growth process, I think, for everybody, when we start to expand our consciousness and start to be aware of things that perhaps we had an idea was there, but we hadn't really grounded it or integrated into our everyday reality. And that's the biggest piece for me, because as has passed, it's still being able to access that vibrational frequency, but it's like giving the body time to adjust to that frequency. And as I've gone through that process, then it's almost as though my body starts to comprehend that experience in a different way. And so it impacts, it's a very, very direct impact on how I um, see the world, how I see life, how I see other people, how I see the world. And the key to that for me, and this starts really pushing the edges, is because some of this I have a difficult time even bringing into language, being able to speak it, because it's simply experience. And so experiencing, seeing everybody else from a different place, experiencing being able to um, sort of pick up from people and what they're experiencing and how they're reflecting back to me. In essence, it always boils down to they're reflecting back to me somehow, um, who I am, on a bigger level than just how our body or our intellect might um, comprehend who we are. And so it feels like over time it's been more of an expansion of and in a making it more real who you are. And my words for that would always have been as a spiritual entity in a body. And a lot of what I'm seeing happening right now, or think I'm seeing happening, what I'm experiencing is there's an opening up that's happening on a whole different level in terms of how real is it? Like I said a minute ago, how real is it that we're being spiritual entities in a body? And I use spiritual entity. Those are just the words that I've used before. But it goes beyond that, watching everything out there shift, watching the scientific community shift in there as they're starting to be able to measure some of these things scientifically that people are going through with this, shall we say, expansion of awareness. That making sense? Am I?
No, no, it was great. Didn't make any sense, but it was great.
I'm happy it didn't make sense. I always, over the
Yeah.
years, I've used that a lot. It's like, did that make sense to you? And they say, no, it didn't. And I say, oh, perfect.
Yeah, well,
or if they say yes, I say, I'm sorry.
I may not be as grounded today as I could be, but let me back up and just say, how does this change either the way you relate to people, your clients, when you're coaching them? How has it changed that? And on the other extreme, how does it change your relationship with the divine spirit, or the, connecting with divine wisdom? Like two different areas completely, the physical and perhaps the spiritual.
Yeah, let's start with the last part of that first. It's to put it very, very simply, I guess, it makes it all just more real and more grounded. That's who I am. I'm bigger than what my intellect, my mind, whatever is capable of comprehending. And so again, it gets back to that experiential. Here's how I'm experiencing myself right now. So it's sort of getting that piece grounded, and that then sort of demands that if we're going to maintain that perspective, we need to let go of our prior perspective, which was based on our prior beliefs. I mean, it's almost like getting to a point where realizing I need to let go of everything, every belief that I've had in my life in order to make room for that which I couldn't have believed before. If that makes sense. It's like, are you going to let this expand or not? Are you going to let your consciousness expand or not? Um, I think we're all being confronted with that in one way or another right now. And the other part of that relating to clients, how did you put that?
Well, has it changed your perspective when you look at a client, when you work with a client, what you say to your client? Has that changed? There's a reason why I'm asking you that, but what's your answer?
Well, it's sort of like as within, so without, and it's like as I'm experiencing myself on that, shall we say, bigger level, then um, that translates the other way too. It's like I'm experiencing other people on that level. And so seeing them more, shall we say, solidly, um, that they too are that. I mean, and that can start to. I remember having this experience when I spent 3 years traveling around the world one time, and it's like when I got back, I kind of went, we're all the same. I don't care what culture it is, anything else, we're all the same. And it's almost like taking that to a whole nother level. It's like seeing that what they're dealing with is what I've been dealing with. What I'm dealing with is what they're dealing with. And at the core of that is how much permission do I have to experience myself in a completely different way. I was raised in a certain environment with certain concepts that were only from my family, from society, all those things. Are you going to move out of those or not? And it's strictly choice. And so seeing people that I'm working with as just constantly being confronted with those choices. Okay, how can we play with that a little bit? And to me, when I say play with it, and I mean that quite literally, not that it's just a play game, and yet it is. It's real. Can we give ourselves permission to lighten up into that modality of playing with this energy? Does that make sense?
A lot more. What I was the reason why one of the reasons why this came up and listening to you is I was confronted just a few days ago by a human drama that unfolded.
Yeah.
A friend of mine said that she heard that one of her acquaintances, not a close friend, not a family member, but an acquaintance of hers had been murdered. And she was very much responding the way human beings respond. I mean, it was like a desperate amount of insecurity, of fear, of pain, of emotional roller coaster. And I caught myself going back from 3 weeks ago when I was in a mindfulness course, and they told me that I needed to be mindful, I needed to have equanimity. I really had to look at life from a higher perspective and not get caught in life's dramas. That's my interpretation. May not be what they said, but that's how I took it. And so I looked at this situation and I said, how terrible for the family, how terrible for the friends. And I'm a little envious because now she's in a better place. She's, doesn't have any of the drama and the pain that we have in our lives. And so my reaction was a little bit different than it might have been. I wasn't as sympathetic to my friend's level of drama as I might have been in the past. And it wasn't her life and it wasn't her, but she was kind of getting into her fear-based of, I think, what could that have happened to me? And, I know that Paula Forget has told me, we have chosen to be incarnated. We have chosen to be in the human life experience. We're supposed to come in and mix it up with all of the stuff that we see and do and feel, the things that come flying at us, the successes and definitely the failures and the challenges. We're here to learn from all of those. So I guess my question is, how does this experience from the other side and bringing back equanimity and being balanced affect you when you see somebody running in circles with their hair on fire and being in drama? And is it bad for us to not get caught in the human drama that's unfolding?
Interesting, um, shall we say, dilemma. Um, I feel like I'd like to move this, address this, some of the core issues that come up for me. Most of us have operated on, again, the concepts, the beliefs that we have, and all this sort of thing. And it's like that there's um, there's spiritual and then there's physical. And it's like, that's a pretty big dichotomy that we've created. And coming out of that experience for myself of the near death and coming back, and it's like having it get more real over time, that what I'm, shall we say, attempting to do in some ways is combine the spiritual and the physical. It's like that as a spiritual entity, I can experience myself on that sort of unlimited level, the capabilities that we have and all that sort of thing. And at the same time, being being able to experience the body and the body's reactions and the body, where it's coming from. And it's like, it's not an either or, those are together. If I see a lot of things out there about, getting more into your body, being more present. Mindfulness, I think, is fits into that category. And it's like, but we do we do some strange things with how we comprehend what these things mean.
Mhm.
And for me, I guess at this point, from that experience that I had, it's like it's all happening at the same time. I don't care where my body gets caught up in somebody else's drama, and and then wants to call it um, what empathy or something. And it's like, no, empathy is something else. And we can get into that another time perhaps. But um, I can feel that. And the key is, what's my body's reaction to that? And I think your description, feeling yourself sort of pulled into that, and that's okay. But the key here is that I can also, on another level, pull myself out of getting hooked into this. This isn't my experience right now, it's their experience. And can I um, empathize with that they're going through an experience, but I don't have to match that. That to me is the mastery of being able to master energy, is I choose which vibration I want to be at right now. And we're also deeply ingrained, I think, on a certain level. Well, we're really capable. You're going through a traumatic experience, so that's setting a certain frequency, shall we say, in your body or in your consciousness, because it's totally occupied with this trauma. And I start talking to you, and I can go to that same place where you're at that time, or I can be aware that I can take my energy out of that place and be at a different frequency. I don't know if that gets very really addresses it or makes it clear enough, but it's like how much of um, I'm using the word master because this is called Masters of the Journey or something like that. And um, it has to do with mastery.
Yeah.
In any remember I had a friend who was teaching at one of these schools, a college where they were teaching technical maintenance or something. And through all the programs, whatever they're relating to, in order to become a master with whatever profession you were, um, or phenomena, if you want to be a carpenter, in order to really learn and know about hammering nails, it's like you had to spend 2,000 hours hammering nails. And it's like the time that it takes to get that grounded into the body to where you don't even think about it anymore. And I think of a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with right now is we're going through a practice session. We're practicing getting in. Mindfulness is one approach, and there's 1,000 other approaches out there as well that are kind of pointing at the same thing. And so which one do I feel the most affinity with, most drawn to, most comfortable with? And yeah, but I'm seeing so much of that going on right now, the blending, the coming together of seeing various groups saying hello to each other that are involved in different things that I never expected to see in this lifetime. Things happen quickly, which just shows you how much I know. But it's like things are changing at an unprecedented rate. So,
well, you know, I know that you've been a professional counselor, healer, expert on, you know, vibrations and body energies. And when you do have mastery, it seems to me like people come to you not because you know something or you've heard or they've heard about something, but because you can really offer perspective that they wouldn't find in their family or friends, because you're plugged in to experience and information at a higher level and you've mastered it. So
yeah, and I'm not even sure that I would call it mastering. Maybe mastering a certain level of it, because what I've found for me, and again it gets back to that near-death experience, some of the awareness that came out of there, that every time I think I've got something mastered, I go to the next step where I don't know anything. You know what I mean? It's like you're here, if you're going to go there, it means letting go of here in order to get there. If I want to go to San Francisco, I need to let go of being here and go to San Francisco, however I get there, and be there if I'm going to experience it. And it's the same way with the spiritual growth or our consciousness shifting or whatever. I need to be willing to go there. And then once I'm there, I need to let go of everything from the past and where I've been, you know, and be present with what is in that moment. And that's tricky because I keep wanting, you know, things get triggered and keep wanting to go back into how did I deal with that in the past? And it's like, no, this isn't about dealing with it in the past. This is about dealing with it from where you're at now. And so the more you own that, the more concrete that is. That's creating a vibration in your beingness, in your presence, or whatever. And I think that's where people are sort of drawn to. And again, this all happens on a vibrational level. How real is it for us that energy is real? And then how far do I want to take that? And people are responding to energy, whether they're aware of that or not. You know, if I'm running a real aggressive sort of attack sort of energy, I mean, you know, people across the street to get away from me. And how real is that? What are they picking? Well, they're picking something up. They may not even know why they crossed the street, but they did. Something inside. How deep in can we get with recognizing energy reality and how deep we go and we know where that person's coming from.
There's a big difference between mastering information or mastering knowledge and then mastering the ability to be present and just allow whatever comes up that you might not intellectually know about, but you have the feelings that you need to adjust energy or to say something to somebody that needs to be said, even though that may not have been from a book you've read or a course you've studied. It's like you're able to plug into the moment and be there and just provide perspective in that very second in time that you're interacting with people.
Yeah, and the number of times that I've had an experience of saying something to somebody when we're working one-on-one as an example, and then kind of, even as I say it, it's like, why am I saying this? And then you watch them, and they're, oh, you can see the light bulbs go on, and it's like, and can I trust that? Can I really truly trust that? And that was part of the thing. Again, getting back to the near-death experience, can I trust that the agreement that I made with myself as I experienced it at that moment was when I decided to come back. Mind you, this was almost 3 days later that I came out of that space, which didn't feel like 3 days at all, of course, because it's outside of time and space. But as I came back, making the agreement with myself that I wasn't going to come back without bringing that vibration back. And there was a sense that if I brought that in, my body was going to have an interesting time adjusting to that frequency, because it contained such a huge, shall we say, universe. It's like blew past everything I thought I knew and all that sort of thing. And can you get the body to adjust to that? So I think that's been kind of the challenge for me in maintaining that, because and I see that as being the perfect equivalent of what we're talking about now, because it's like with the trade school that I was talking about, and you can read about hammering nails from now until the end of time and never really have that be a master of hammering nails until you actually do it physically, and that's getting into the physical body, into the physical reality. And it also brings up the whole issue of oh God, what was the issue? um, I lost that, whatever that thought was. So
Good. Well, let me put things on pause for just a second.
okay.
And that lost thought, Don, what is that?
Yeah. How can I say this? I think I mentioned this earlier a bit, but it is that thing of being able to experience something. The difference between thinking about it. Again, I mentioned earlier about, reading the book. I can read it over and over and over and over, and I can get all the intellectual concepts set in my mind. And I find myself dealing with this a lot with people, I think. They'll get that in their mind, but will they let themselves truly experience it? Because it's like experiencing the near-death place was very, very different than thinking about it. And will I give myself permission? Will I trust myself enough not to have a near-death experience? I don't particularly recommend that by any means, but will I allow myself to experience hammering nails? And sometimes it can feel a little rote or a little like, over and over and over. Well, sooner or later you start operating from that different place. And again, we may not even understand it. And it's like relating to that, what we mentioned a minute ago about dealing with a client or a friend or something, and just letting it blurt out. Can I trust? And trust is a huge issue. Can I trust that I'm more than my body? Can I trust that I'm coming from wherever I'm coming from, but that it's okay to express that? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because connecting with it and then trusting it are two different things. And in the work that I'm doing right now, I'm trying to have people connect with guidance, their ancestors or their spirits or their angels or the divine or whatever it is. Not only connect with it, but then actually listen to it, pay attention to it, follow through on that information instead of just intellectualizing and making an excuse. Oh, that was interesting, and then not following through. So how do we develop trust with the gut feeling or the sensation or the information from the divine?
Yeah. Another interesting question,
Yeah.
in terms of how to, um, because we've been trained so much it's a how to, and I don't look at it as a sort of a how to. I need to learn another technique. Need to learn another something to make this happen. It's one of the values that I see in meditation practices, and this isn't any one or anything else, but it, any one practice or whatever, um, is that giving ourselves room, giving ourselves space to experience something other than we're used to experiencing. So I'm used to running around in a very busy world, and I'm used to staying busy, blah, 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 and answering all the questions and all that sort of thing. But it's like, how comfortable can I get with maybe reaching that space in meditation where I'm starting to realize things that I didn't realize before, or I'm starting to see them differently, or I'm starting to have more, shall we say, amusement, more fun. I'm touching those places. Now, how much do I trust letting that come in? And it's essentially, I guess the bottom line for me is it comes down to that: how much are you allowing yourself to be that? It's a state of being, to be that which we touch. And then from there, being aware what comes up for us, what are the issues that keep us from maintaining that state of being, from being real with that. And when I talk about maintaining that state of being, I'm not talking about, oh, I'm going to float around in the clouds. Oh, look at me, I'm so this, that, whatever it happens to be. Or, oh God, I am so much more evolved now than I used to be. Or, all of that out there kind of stuff. It's like being real with it here in the body. And you'll notice even as I'm talking about things that I'm not even sure relate to the question that you've asked, and yet it seems appropriate. And so, because this is a whole package, it's a huge, who we are is a huge package. Who we are all together is a huge package. And it's not really very complicated. It's pretty simple. We tend to want to make it complicated by trying to figure it all out or something. That's the mind. And can I um, let myself just be operating from a different level? And how do I learn to trust myself? How do I learn to trust myself hammering nails? It's the same process, practice, I guess. Although what I'm finding right now that surprises me, and I didn't um, really expect this at all, is people are making shifts now much, much, much faster than they used to. And I find that within myself. It's like It's almost like it's more accessible to us now in a way that I can't explain. I can't even describe it. It's just things are more open or something in terms of our self exploration. And so maybe it doesn't take 2,000 hours of practice anymore. It's like because I've seen some people make some huge shifts in a short period of time that before I would have thought, yeah, that's going to take another 6 months or a year or 2 years or whatever for them to really pop through this sort of stuck place where they are. So I don't know. It's almost like the scripts are all being rewritten. And can I let myself go? Well, can I trust? That back to that core issue of trusting myself. And oddly enough, through all of our upbringing, probably we really have learned how to not trust. And
So,
really love it.
so one of the things that I heard was trust is it starts by being open, by allowing yourself to change or to see things differently or to think differently. And I heard that, and then you said something like it's actually simple, we just make it complicated by how we describe it or try to understand it. And the example that popped into my mind is if you have agreed that you're looking out at a beautiful green tree or green grass, it's beautiful, but then how do you describe green to somebody who's not there? And it really, we get lost in words and thoughts and concepts, where in the moment you can just enjoy it and perceive it. You feel it, you know it, but you I don't know. It's easier to do than when you muck it up by trying to describe.
Oh my, yeah, yeah. Because we get caught up in the words. First of all, I mean, your example of the tree, I think that's wonderful because um, I say it's a green tree. I have no idea how you see green, none. And um, I know how I see green, or I think I do. Um, and the language is the same way. I use a word to describe something. I have no idea what you're going to hear. I may have a little bit of an idea, but I don't know what you're going to hear initially. An example of that going back, um, a couple of people that I know, and I'd gotten together for the first time, and they were both from um, the same country originally, not from here. And uh, and they just kind of hit it off because of that commonality, I think, right off the bat. And they were talking along, and they'd flip back and forth between their native language and English. And they've both been here for a long time, so they spoke English really well. No problem there. And they got somewhere in the conversation, and one of them threw something out to the other one. And I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 wait a minute," because he flipped into his native language, and I said, "What does that mean?" And um, he looked at me, and then he both looked at each other, and I could see sort of a confusion going on. They both at the same time turned and looked at me, and at exactly the same moment, both said, "There is no English equivalent." And it's like, yeah, okay, I got it. I got to understand that. And they went through trying to explain, a few things that kind of pointed in the English language, sort of pointed at what they were talking about. But it's like we use words to try to describe our experiences. And sometimes the words just don't do it. How can I really describe, well, let's take orgasm, you know, to me, there's no words that can really express that. I can talk about things about it that I liked or didn't like or whatever. But same thing for me with when you mentioned the green tree. And I walked outside the other day and was standing by these trees next to where I live. And it was one of those magic sort of moments when I tuned in. This just all happened. I didn't sort of deliberately set out to do this, but I was aware that my body was registering the vibrational frequency of those trees. And it's like touching nature in a deeper kind of way. What words would I use to describe that? I don't have words for it. You know, I can try, but that's where we, you know, and then I can get caught up in the words and I start limiting the full experience of that down to the English language words or whatever language I'm speaking. No, and this is a complete experience. And it's like, it's again, the difference between experience and intellectualness. And there's nothing wrong with intellect. I mean, it serves a hugely useful purpose, but it's not the king of the mountain or the queen of the mountain. You know, there's something else going on here. If I'm truly wanting to expand my awareness and be more fully aware of who I am, then I need to be willing to go way, way beyond. But again, back to that, what I believe and what I can intellectually jam into the analyzer part of my brain. We're raising huge issues here, John.
Yeah, yeah, we're covering a lot of ground, and I kind of want to wind this recording down. And thank you for participating. I think it's going to open some doors for us to be chatting and doing more topics. And when we speak in the future, we'll have some shorter ones, we'll have some longer ones. I love the fact that our audience will have something to look forward to, and maybe they'll come back and want to spend some more time with us.
Yeah.
So and for right now, I'm going to say thank you, Don, and I'm glad that you were with us. We're glad that you were able to spend some time listening to us go back and forth with stuff that when we planned this, we didn't expect to go through. So we've opened some pretty big doors. We hope that it gives you some perspective and that you can listen and follow through with how this will affect you and how you might look at your life a little bit differently. And any parting comments, Don, before we turn off the recording?
Oh, thank you, John. This is it's fun. It's fun.
Well, again, Don, I always appreciate spending time with you, and we'll be doing this again. And thanks for your time.
Okay,
just going to sign off for right now. It's John Mason, Masters of the Journey. Well, really appreciate your time and your attention. If you need any more contact for us, please come to our Facebook at Masters of the Journey or our website at www.mastersofthejourney.com. We will try to get you in touch with Don Ley with his contact information if you require that, if you want that, if you'd enjoy that. And come on back and visit with us in the future. Go to our library. Hopefully it's at YouTube, Masters of the Journey. Thank you.